Nigeria's Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says the government is planning a budget of more than 7 trillion naira next year to help pull the economy out of recession. Ayodeji, a senior associate investment banking at Afrinvest, joins me to discuss Nigeria's budgeting plan. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Ayodeji, this morning.
Thanks for having me.
We're talking about this new budget, 7 trillion naira next year. We know the uproar that 6 trillion actually caused this year when the government announced it. My point is, before we get into the plans for 2017, how much has 2016 even achieved to begin with?
Yes, I think that's the fact. Before we can begin to look at what happened in 2017, we need to assess how the performance of 2016 budget. And looking at, based on available information as at H1, that's half year 2016, you discover that the government is still running behind. When you look at the revenue line, based on how 2016 budget has been structured, less reliance on oil and more reliance on non-oil revenue. So, but when you discover that oil is still contribute about 42% to the total revenue for H1, that's based on actual. And looking at the independent sources, non-oil revenue, that the budget has anticipated to get significant chunk of its revenue, it's still lagging behind, which obviously, when you look at in terms of the corporate income tax, businesses are not doing well. You want to look at even VAT purchasing powers of the individuals of Nigerians have dropped. And those are a combination of these factors have really affected the revenue back. Then coming to the expenditure, you discover that debt servicing has been taking over based on the actual revenue. 64% of the actual revenue is being spent to service debt. And when you look at what government has borrowed to date to be able to finance the expenditure, it's about 1.8 trillion, and which mostly has been locally sourced. So when you look at the combination of all these factors, you look at it's a tall order to achieve the 6.7 trillion, 6.8 trillion based on the medium-term expenditure framework for 2017.
Yeah, really honestly, because looking at this figure, I'm asking myself, how do they really plan to achieve it? How realistic is this budget? It's also pegged on an exchange rate of about, what? About 290
naira to $1.
Or last Friday, we're just 20 naira away from hitting 500. So how realistic is this? How sure? I mean, what does the government have in plan to ensure that it actually gets to 290? Are there factors they're seeing that are actually going to favor the naira in any way?
Yes, I feel this is based on the medium-term expenditure framework. The actual budget may actually be revised to reflect current rates, because even to the government, all this dollar revenue, if you're able to use the current rate, it also increases your naira revenue on every dollar you earn. So it's positive for the government to also reflect the actual exchange rate. Even if you use the 305, that's like 15 naira spread, which will also help it. But when you look at, in terms of how does government intend to execute especially the expenditure, debt service is expected to increase significantly. So if it's like from every 1 naira you make, you pay out 64 kobo this year, and you expect that to increase next year, it's really going to affect capital expenditure. Based on H1 2016 data, you discover that government have only achieved 10% as at H1 of its plan for 2016. And we expect that this drag will continue into 2017. And it's really going to affect the economy, because any economy that there's no investment, you don't expect any growth.
I really agree with you, because taking a look at this, the spending is about 1.76 on capital, 2.5 on recurrent and debt expenditure. That's actually for 2017. So I'm asking myself now, how promising is this budget really? I mean, we're talking about, everyone keeps saying, as long as you're borrowing for the right reasons, as long as you're borrowing for infrastructure development, but we see recurrent is actually rearing its head once again, topping capital expenditure. So I'm asking myself, what hope does this 2017 budget really have for revamping the economy in 2017?
Yeah, even the second in command, the vice president, has said that even the 7 trillion cannot lift Nigeria out of recession. So it's facing the facts. When you look at it, government needs to step aside, even apart from the budget, look at what other way can you drive the economy. There are a lot of the public-private partnership arrangements. We need to say I want to revamp the PPP law, which is currently under the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission. They need to revamp that so that you build a structure that can attract this FDI, this investment, so that once you have this investment, it will also help drive the economy. Government, the budget, I don't see I don't see any significant hope in this in the 2017 budget, because we expect that revenue will continue to drag. Oil, yes, even if they've also budgeted about 1.5 based on the MTEF, 1.5 trillion. And this year, when you look at what has been achieved, it's less than 1 trillion. So you don't expect, even if you resolve the issue within the Niger Delta, oil price moves to above $50 per barrel, you don't expect any significant jump in revenue, because the independent sources, non-oil revenue, will continue to be challenged. Government needs to look at, especially the independent sources, they need to see how they want to overhaul the operations of the public sector. So that you can reduce leakages and also bring down the cost of the personnel. I see what you're saying, because
even talking about policies that that might turn around things for the better. I mean, we're already rounding up, we're already in December this year. The whole issue around the FX has really topped discussions this year as well. That, to a very large extent, has also affected investment in the economy to begin with. Now, taking a look at 2017, I'm asking myself, what can be done within this very short period in time? Because you talked about the fact that let's just take our focus away from the budget and what it offers. Let's look at the real economy, basically. What plans are in place to attract investment in 2017 and turn around the narrative that we have seen in 2016?
Yes, I think we need to look from two perspectives. Monetary policy, what can they do to help in the short term to help improve confidence? The FX challenges we're going through, it's just about the confidence. It's just like there's no bank that can survive. There's a run on any bank. So if the monetary policy, especially the CBN, is able to instill confidence for foreign investors, will attract a lot of dollar inflow, which will help stabilize the economy. There are a lot of FDIs in terms of investment that are waiting on the sideline to study and to understand our FX policy. The FX market is currently fragmented. You see different, so you don't even know which rates to quote. You don't know. In terms of accountability, transparency, all those things are still lacking. So the CBN needs to sit down, review its policy. Yes, in June, promised the floating exchange rates. So they need to revamp that, because that spurred confidence then when it was announced. But taking that bold step.
Also talking about, reviewing its policy, I'm hoping that a very intelligent debate, will begin, while taking a look at this budget, talking about the assembly now, really taking a critical look at this budget. But then again, we know that even when you do not have a critical debate, it takes about 4 months for approval. I mean, our budgets never start from January. Yeah. You have it trailing into the 4th month in 2017. And that also, to some extent, also affected how things were run in the year 2016. So are you really looking forward to a very intelligent debate on this budget, and at the same time keeping our fingers crossed that it's actually passed on time so that things can kick off? What's your take? Yeah,
I feel the National Assembly will try as much as possible to reduce the bottleneck and the time lag in passing the budget this time around. The president would, I think, at least submit this year, and we feel based on the learning curve and based on the committee, they'll be able to work fast, and they know what the ministers know what the National Assembly are looking for in terms of the details on the information they require. So in terms of passage, I don't feel there will be significant delay this year. But what government needs to focus more is come up with that framework. Yes, they say they have the framework, they have the blueprints, but if you call an average Nigerian, nobody knows exactly what is the focus of this government. What do they want to do? Is it power that they are trying to channel their energy into? Is it, yes, non-revenue, it's broad. Is it agriculture? We need to know that every Nigerian can be able to talk about this government. This is particularly what the focus will be on. And as a result, by the time you drive that into the mind of everyone, it will attract investment, attract people to activities, and as a result, it will unlock potential within that space.
Interesting. We're just going to have to see how that plays out in the coming year. I've been talking to Ayodeji Ebo, as a senior associate partner, rather, at investment banking at Afrinvest. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right.